Hi, I'm Gregg Karukas, and you're watching Elements of Jazz TV.
Elements of Jazz, your visual jazz experience.
Well, my style has developed over many years, and I did play a lot of fusion as a younger child, but I think I went to less notes. I went for more soul, more melody, and that's one of those things Les McCann said to me when I met him. I was very young, and he heard a gig that I played. He was very encouraging, and he said, "Man, it's cool to play funky, but you can play pretty too." So that stuck with me. So that's kind of my formula, if you will. Playing funky, but also playing pretty. A little grease thrown in too. High school, I started getting into jazz, and I first got into fusion with Return to Forever, Chick Corea, and Weather Report, and Herbie Hancock, of course. But then I went backwards from there and really started studying way back into Louis Armstrong, and of course Miles Davis, and Cannonball Adderley, and Charlie Parker. So I sort of delved a little bit into every facet of jazz. And I was very lucky because I was playing a 5-night-a-week gig in Washington, D.C., and we were playing sort of jazz lounge music, but we play a lot of standards and originals as well. So I got to sort of hone my chops on the gig, if you will. And I would say lately, my biggest influences are guys like, well, since, again, I was a teenager, they stick with me. People like Herbie, George Duke, of course, Joe Sample, and then on the piano side, people like Bill Evans, Chick Corea, and you know, it just goes on and on. I try not to just depend on one guy for inspiration. I kind of widen out. Well, I studied piano as a kid, but I was not really a prodigy. But I sort of went on and off between piano, guitar, trumpet, little drums. And then I really got serious when I was about 14. I got asked to play in the high school jazz band in Bowie, Maryland. And through that jazz band, the guys in the band, you know, the trumpet player would say, "Hey man, have you heard this Miles Davis record?" And I had heard of Miles, but then we would sit down and we would really listen. So that was the beginning of my study of jazz, if you will. And right after high school, I was very lucky and I hooked up with the saxophone player who had been in the Air Force Jazz Band, the Airman Note. And his name was Tim Ironman. And right after he got out of the Air Force, we formed an original band called East Coast Offering. And we started working the clubs in DC and Baltimore and kept that band together for about 4.5 years, working pretty steadily. And so I got to be one of the prime composers for the band and wrote a lot of different styles of music, everything from fusion to funk to Brazilian stuff. And I guess that's sort of what my training ground was. And then when I was about 25, I decided to move to Los Angeles. And I didn't really know too many people, but I came to Los Angeles with the idea of just sort of becoming an all-round sideman and not becoming my own solo artist, but I really wanted to play with as many people as possible. And that was quite a few years ago. Here we are today. Well, I would love to hear from fans out there, and it's great because you got Facebook, you have MySpace, and my website, karukas.com, and especially Facebook. I get messages almost weekly. I'll get a few messages from people that have just discovered my music, or they just say, you know, I'm new to Facebook, but I've been a fan for a long time, and now, you know, we can stay in touch directly because when I come out with my next CD, which should be sometime in early 2012, you know, I'll let everybody know, and everybody will be on it right away. It's like the week of the release, everybody will be on iTunes, and that's the best way to get it. Or people email me a lot, and I sell CDs from the website, and I autograph them personally. So we still have the CDs, and we still like to sell those because it's great. You get to hold it, you get to see it with the artwork and everything.